and welcome everybody to our session today on Microsoft Teams. Definitely something near and dear to my heart. It's really my go-to program for a lot of the things that I do. This is an application that I seriously open. Well, I have it in my startup, so every time I log into my computer in the beginning of the day, I definitely take advantage of having Microsoft Teams right there for me so that I can start using it right away, because it includes so much that we need to be taking advantage of every day. But the thing about it is it's definitely changing. It is an application that is on Microsoft's radar for improving and advancing the capabilities of what this application seriously can do. So without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about some of these features that we have available here in Teams. So Microsoft Teams, I call it a front-end program because it is a SharePoint background that we are actually using. And I'm not real sure why my camera keeps popping off on me there, but let's see if I can get that to turn back on here. If not, that's okay. We don't need to see me, you just need to see my screen, so I won't worry so much about that here right now. But anyway, so when it comes to using Microsoft Teams, the very first thing that I want to talk about is, yes, Teams has all of this capability for us to be able to do chatting. We have interactions even more so now than we ever did before on working with other 365 apps, especially Outlook. We are directly connected to Outlook, and that will remain a big part of using this program. So when it comes to using Microsoft Teams, we still have all of these capabilities, but as I said, Microsoft has been advancing them. They've been adding brand new features and enhancing the existing features that we've had. First thing you're going to notice is, yes, there is a new user interface. So right away at the beginning of your handout, you're going to find information about the navigation pane. On the left-hand side, where we go to navigate the different components of Microsoft Teams, you're going to see that there is no longer a Teams icon. If you have the latest updates to Microsoft Teams, the chat is actually Teams as well. So chat and Teams have been combined together. Microsoft's big focus right now, and that word focus is a big word that they're using these days, but their focus is really to kind of eliminate all of the busyness that we have going on our screens. They're making the applications more seamless. So as we navigate from one to another, when it comes to working in our different applications, they want us to not have to relearn how to use something or how something looks when we navigate to a different application. So the way that we work in Teams is the same as how we're going to be working in other 365 apps. Now, of course, you'll get an example of how that works here today. So one of the things that you're going to see is, yes, we still have the activity as our first command, our first icon at the top left in Microsoft Teams. But there's a few things that have changed a little bit when we come into the activities. If we talk about the past few months of changes to Microsoft Teams, they have been making slight adjustments. So first off, they started including if somebody updates a meeting that you had with them, you'll get notified in the activities. If somebody mentions you, you get notified in the activities. A lot of things come to the activities because it's your activities. We can get notifications from a SharePoint document library that will notify us in the activities category. So a lot happens there. So if you ever look at your activities icon, see a red circle with a number, that's letting you know that you have something new in that category and you need to go there to see what exactly is it. So I don't have anything new in mind right now, but I want to talk about some enhancements that have happened here. So one of them is if you are on a meeting notification. So if you have an activity that is meeting related, you're going to see the details for that in the right-hand side. So when you click on anything from the left, you'll see the contents of it on the right-hand side. So I could attend a meeting, I could join a meeting directly from the activity. I don't have to go to a calendar to join a meeting. There's a lot of other places that we can be. So we don't have to leave one place to go someplace else to activate something. But on the right-hand side, when you are on an activity that is a meeting related, you're also going to see tracking. So tracking is automatically available as well. So if you're being invited to a meeting that is going to be um, 10 other people that are coming, you're going to be able to see who is accepted, who has declined, that type of thing. You'll see that tracking capability for that meeting. And this is a meeting that I happen to be invited to, but it's not a meeting I created. So it's nice that we can see that even for other meetings. So if I click on something that is an app mention, you can of course see the details for those as well. So just as you can see, I'm kind of clicking on a few different things just to show you that they will automatically show up on the right hand side. So slight enhancements to the activities. But one thing to kind of really be thinking about with all of these different parts of Microsoft Teams is always check out every command going to the right hand side. So like when I'm on activities, and if I click on a specific type of activity, on the right-hand side, yes, it's going to give you different information about it, but the commands at the top right change depending on what it is that you're actually in. So if you're in a meeting, if you're in an app mention, you're in a chat, whatever the case may be, you're going to get different tools available at the top right. One of the tools that I'm seeing right now based on this meeting invitation is I have changed settings. I don't even have to go to the top left to get to my change settings. I'm sorry, top right to get to my change settings. I actually have the command located right on the menu for me. So I can click change settings and it will take me automatically into the Teams settings. So if there's something that is specifically related to the item that I'm clicked on, you'll get tools related to that item. So make it a habit. I know we all have habits, right? Whether they're good habits or bad habits, we all have habits. Get into the habit of always looking at your commands at the top right, because some have changed, some are brand new. So you always want to know because you don't want to miss anything, because Microsoft is putting things there for a reason. So always check those out. So I happened to be on a message when I was in my activity there. I was on it was a meeting invite, but what it gave me was quick, easy access to the settings, which took me directly to privacy because it was coming from an outside source. So it's a rhyme and reason purpose. So it wouldn't be there if there wasn't a reason. So Microsoft's hiding commands because we don't need them all the time. So just to give you an idea, if you're in the settings, there's a couple of settings that you definitely want to be checking out. Oh, my camera decided to work now. Hi, everyone. But just so you could see, if I'm in settings, which this was one way to get there, you really want to take a minute and go through the different settings because they've changed some of these, but you want to start in the general category. So when you look at the middle, kind of that middle part of your window, start in the general where I have my auto startup for my teams because I don't want to have to open it when I know what I want it open. So I have Outlook and I have Teams in my startup, so they're always there. But you can see some of these other things that you can be doing. Opening content in the Teams window, starting chats, where do you want them to be located at? Different translation and language options that we have that they keep enhancing. Also notice you have your out of office. So if you go looking for changing your out of office in the new Outlook is not available under the file menu, Because there isn't one. There isn't a file menu. It's actually under the settings here in Teams and in Outlook, both located at the top right of your screen, but also make sure your spell check is turned on in this general category. Now, I'm not going to go through all of these categories. I really just want to point out a couple of them. And one of them that I want to point out is notifications. A big part of using Microsoft Teams is the ability to get notifications for different things that are going on so that you don't miss things. So spend a couple of minutes and go through these notifications to make sure that they're working with you. They're doing what you want, because not everybody needs a notification for absolutely everything. And where is that notification showing up? By default, the bottom right. So if I go to this display category, we can actually change where that banner notification shows up. So if you've been getting that banner notification at the bottom right all the time and it covers up other things all the time and you want it to move it to a different location, you actually can. You can move it to a different location now. So just take a few minutes, go through each of the categories in this settings, and look at the right-hand side, go through each of those options to make sure that the program is working in the way you want it to be working, not just the default settings. Now, what is another way to get to these settings? Well, let's say that I click on activity again. I don't have to navigate through each item in my activities to find the settings. You can go straight to the top right of your screen, click on the dot 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 menu, and then click on settings. That will automatically take you to where I just was. So it's always conveniently located. But let's just kind of go down our left-hand side here and talk about some new things and some enhancements that we have. If you go to the chat category, this is definitely a big change for everybody. Some people are telling me they don't like it. Some people are saying they absolutely love it. It is kind of one of those that it takes a little bit to get used to. So Microsoft has combined together the chatting capability and the Teams into the chat. I don't know if I would have called it chat because it's Teams and chat. It's kind of confusing a little bit. I don't know if they'll change that eventually, but how does it work? That's the part we want to know. So at the very top, you're going to see different categories, and there is a drop-down menu for those categories as well, because there's meeting chats that you can easily access. But right now I'm just on chats. So I could go straight and just to kind of work my way down this middle part of the window. If I want to see channels, I want to see my teams and my channels, I click channels. It's going to automatically change my menu to be channels. But what doesn't go away is right underneath that first section. So it's kind of in different sections now going down this middle part. Underneath that middle section there, you're going to see Copilot. You can instantly access Copilot directly from here. It used to be an icon at the top. Now it's kind of grouped together with a few other commands, which makes it much easier for us to use. Copilot, of course, is available on the navigation on the left, though, as well. You're going to see Copilot everywhere because it is such a big part of our everyday work. If you have the license for it, you'll see it. But otherwise, just so you can see, we also have this feature called Discover. I'm going to go ahead and click on Discover. It's going to change my right-hand side. It doesn't have anything specifically to show me right now with that Discover, but I'll just briefly describe what this is. So Discover is, it can go out and analyze your other 365 activities and show you if there's anything that you should be aware of with some other apps. It actually is using Viva in the background and some other apps. But right now I've already looked at everything today, so I don't have anything in there. I shouldn't have looked at it. I apologize, because I could have showed you some things that I already saw this morning, but something to definitely be checking out on a regular basis. We also have at mentions. If you go to at mentions, you can actually see where you have been mentioned. So very common to be using the at symbol and then the person's name to mention them to draw attention to specific areas. We actually have a couple of different ways to access at mentions. They do show up in the activities as well. You can even get at mentions in emails, at mentions in, I could use an at mention in Microsoft project. There's so many different places we can use that mentions, but it's really a tool that we use to help draw the attention to you. So always pay attention to those. It's being more commonly used, so Microsoft gave us an actual icon to quickly and easily get to them. Then underneath at mentions will be whichever category you're in. So if I want to be working in chats, I'm going to the top and I'm going to click chats. If I want to be working in Teams, I'm going to click on channels. So just so you can see that it's automatically changing what you're seeing. Now, is there any changes to those? Absolutely. But before I talk about those, Matthew, did someone have a question or comment?
Yeah, someone is saying that they don't have those options on their teams. Um, I'm s- I'm
Yes.
su- I'm assuming they're talking about Copilot and Discover. They're saying they're on a Mac, but they're wondering
Oh,
why that might be.
I hate to say this, but I don't know how to use Teams on a Mac. I
Ah,
don't use a Mac. So unfortunately, I don't know for sure. First thing I would ask is, do they have a Copilot license? And I don't know about Viva connections with their organization. So they may not be seeing Discover or Copilot because they don't have the licensing. They don't have Viva connected to their background of their 365. That could be two things, but I don't know for sure because I don't do a Mac. Sorry.
but if they had a Copilot, if they don't have a Copilot license, would these
Mhm.
options show up in their teams?
If they have a Copilot license, it should still be showing up, correct?
And if they do not have a license, it would not show up.
They would not see it. They would not see it if
Okay.
they do not have a license.
So
Okay,
so it could be either I know Mac and Microsoft don't get along super well.
right,
Um, Also, it could be an outdated version of Teams, or it could be that you don't have the Copilot license. Those are the,
correct.
yeah,
But
okay,
the other thing to think about with all of that, Matthew, too, just another side note is when they go to the left-hand side, um, do they just see chat or do they see Teams too? Because if they have an older version of Teams, from a month ago, not too long ago version of Teams, they were separate still. So they'd have a separate
right.
Teams icon versus the chats where
And
now it's combined.
it looks like that is the case here. Um,
Okay.
but we did get a second question that may be on this topic.
Okay.
What is a Copilot license? Which is a good thing to cover before we
Oh
delve a
my
little deeper here.
gosh.
Yeah,
Yes, that was a great question. So
yeah,
there is Copilot free version now. So if you want to personally be using Copilot as a personal person, you can get a free version of Copilot. But then there's a pro version and these other versions, all the way up through premium and those types of things of Copilot, depending on your organization. You can get multiple licenses. You get them cheaper, depending on the features that you need. I just have pro. I have another account that has premium, but I don't need all those bells and whistles. So there's different flavors and different costs associated with those as well. And I have heard rumor that they did just increase the price of Copilot. We're supposed to be going down on prices, not up, but I haven't looked into that specifically because I just saw something on it yesterday. But so if I have the pro version of Copilot, so I see Copilot in all of my 365 apps. It is because I'm paying for the license, it is directly connected with my 365. So Copilot is my assistant in all applications because I have a paid for version that works directly within my 365 license. I hope
great.
that
So
helps.
yeah, so simply put, a Copilot license is simply a subscription to access the software.
Correct.
Right.
For the app, correct. And
Awesome.
it can be
Thank you.
used on their phone as well. Okay.
Yes.
But to get
Great.
started, they could start with the free version so that they could kind of test the waters, but with the understanding that it's not going to connect with their other 365 apps. They would be using it like a chat GPT, which is still good, but I want the integration of the 365. Can't live without it
Certainly.
today. Me and AI are pretty tight. Love it. So let's kind of continue a little bit. And Matthew, if you have any more, just let me know. And I apologize once again for not understanding the Mac side of things. But anyway, when it comes to this newer version of Microsoft Teams, a couple of things that I wanted to bring up is before I kind of dive into what's different in chat and what's different in the actual channels and teams themselves, is at the very top of this pane for chat, at the top it says the word chat. On the right hand side, if you want to create something new, you go to this menu. So if I want to do a new message, I can click new message. So if I want to do a new chat, I can click new message. But if I want something else new, I click the down arrow. So this has changed. So it kind of takes a little bit to get used to this, but if you click on that drop down arrow, you can do a new message, a new channel, you could join a team, you could do a brand new team, and it has new section. So when we're talking about these sections that we have, you can actually create a new section and add things to these sections. So something you want to kind of practice with a little bit, give some thought process as to how you want to group things together. Your handout does have a little bit more information on that, but I'll demonstrate one of those in a second on working with a section. But just so you know, you have that menu at the top. Also, you have a search where you can show, which is a search for filtering. So if I want to see specific things, I click on that little magnifying glass for my filter, and I can filter by name or I can filter by group based on where I'm currently at. We also have a menu, this more list options, where we can go in and mark everything as being read. We can collapse and expand our sections. We can customize our view, which is very new. We also have access to your teams and channels. First thing I want to show you though is customize view. When you come into customize view, it takes you into your settings. So kind of another way to get into your team's settings. So it takes you to the chats and channels category. So do you want to combine the chats, teams, and channels together, or do you want them to be separate? I'm keeping mine together because that's the new look. But also you have some other settings that you can do. So make sure that you check these out. Scroll all the way down. When you go to a channel, do you want to show recent activity at the top of the channel or at the bottom of the channel? I like it at the top. So just kind of look through these settings and see what's going to work best for the way you use the applications. I'm going to go back to the left-hand side and click chat again, because there is something that you do want to be aware of. Right now I'm in channels, so I'm seeing my teams and my channels. If you hesitate on teams and channels, I'm kind of hesitating on that category at the very top. I have a menu on the right-hand side, the dot, dot, dot. If you click on that, we can be going into, and sorry, I was a little bit to the left and it shrunk the whole thing up. I needed to be right on the dot, dot, dot. My mouse moved when I clicked, but what it's going to show you is you can have channels only, or you can hide inactive channels, or you can access your teams and channels from here as well as going to that drop down that you saw a moment ago. So I'm going to actually click your teams and channels. I'm going to click your teams and channels. This is going to show you a list on the right hand side of all of your teams and every channel. So it's kind of a summarization of all of them that you have, because some of these could actually be hidden. This is going to show you everything, even if it's not hidden. So you can see it's giving you some different information about those teams and channels as well. So if I needed to see all of those, this is where I could go to manage all teams and all channels. But I'm going to go back to the middle part of the window, and I had shrunk it up. So I'm just going to click on it again to expand it back out. So we can collapse and expand that, because depending on what you want to see within this pane, it can be modified. So all of that can be different custom views depending on how you want to see things, something you want to kind of play with a little bit. But let me show you the other thing that's kind of important to understand here. We don't have the same ways of creating a new team. If you want a brand new team, you're going to go to the top, click on that drop down arrow, Matthew, I'm going to get to you before I do this. So what was the question?
It seems like there's a few people who are having the same display issues. So someone's question was, why would my teams still be on the older version? And so on their screen they have the chat icon and then they have the Teams icon below that in their sidebar. Um, but they're on the web version, so they're wondering why isn't my web version up to date?
So they have a web version and a desktop version, and they're looking different?
No, the I think the web version and desktop version are looking the same. I
They
think they're more
should,
so,
yeah.
yeah, they're expecting their web version to be the most up to date version of Teams, but it
They may want to check with their IT department to see how often they get their updates, because some organizations only update every 3 months. They update for everybody all at one time. They won't see at the top. So my teams, because I'm the admin, my teams updates immediately, because I need, as a trainer, I need to see all of the latest updates right away. So mine is an automatic. My teams will
right.
just close and reopen, and it just did an update. But most organizations don't work that way. They
Mm,
control when the updates actually happen. So it might only happen once a month, once every 3 months, once every 6 months. They update the whole organization, and there's reasons behind that. My IT hat comes on, and because it may not be compatible with something else that they're doing, they need to test it first, and those types of things. So if it's not updating, they may want to talk to their IT department. Okay,
okay, so
I
so
can't
the admin
answer it for them.
controls, yeah, so the admin
Yeah,
controls how often your teams update.
as an
Um,
organization.
yeah, okay,
Yes.
organization
Mhm.
wise, which is likely
Yep,
your IT department. Great, thank you,
correct.
Joanne.
Or your MSP. I mean,
Fine.
could be Smart Dolphins that
Yes,
has worked with them, and should be working with them and setting that up for them. But somebody makes a decision on that for a
right.
reason. There's always a rhyme and a reason behind that, for sure. Okay. So when you want to create a new team, you're going to come this way now. So we're going to come into this drop down menu. We're going to click new team. Then you need to, of course, give the team a name. But what you're going to find, if you have the rights, because not everybody does have rights to create a new team, but if you do, what you're going to see that is going to be very different is the channel situation. We no longer have the general channel by default, and you can't name. It's going to require you to create a first general. I'm sorry, it's going to require you to create a first channel. So down here at the bottom, after you give your team a name, notice it's got the red asterisk by name the first channel. You can hesitate on this little info here as well, and it's going to tell you that it's required that you give the channel a first name. So you can't create a new team without naming your first channel. So if you went through the proper procedures of creating a new team, you should have been thinking about what channels you want in your team. You planned ahead. So this shouldn't be a surprise. Just so you now need to do that. You have to give the first channel a name. Now, I'm not really going to create another new team. I'm have enough teams to go back and delete after I get done with training session. So I'm not going to create a new team beyond our scope anyway today. I just wanted you to be aware of that. Now, when it comes to working with other things, I haven't clicked on any team or any channel yet. So the right-hand side of my screen is still what I had last clicked on from the middle part of my window. So if you're wondering why it hasn't changed, it's because I haven't clicked on anything else. But if I do click on a channel, there isn't going to be very many changes that you're going to see really when it comes to working with your tabs across the top. It's still all of your apps, but the post tab has a change that I do want to make sure that you are seeing. So when you come into the post tab, one of the things is when you go to create a new post, first thing is you could start the post as a regular new post like we normally did, or if you want it to be an announcement, one way to do it is to click announcement instead of just keeping it on a general post. But you can change that even after you start a new post. So if I click start a new post, I just click where my cursor, said start a new post. I could go to the bottom right next to the post icon and click post type. And I could change to an announcement. So if I start a post and I change my mind, I could go back and change it to an announcement. But otherwise, it wants to know what is the subject of the post and then what is the message that you want to put in the post. You get limited formatting capabilities. And at the bottom left, we have limited options on what to include in the post. We don't need 4,000 icons going across the bottom. If you click the plus sign, you'll see the rest of your choices, which includes some new enhanced features. One of them is actually schedule message. We can schedule when this post is going to happen. Because if I'm creating this post at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, a lot of people might already be gone for the day. So I don't want to post it right now. I'm going to wait and have it automatically be posted at 9 a.m. A lot of organizations these days want communication sent out during a specific time frame of the day, like from 10 to 2 o'clock in the afternoon, depending on shifts and everything. So you can schedule a message. So I'm going to click schedule a message. We can choose the date that we want it to go out. We could choose the time we want it to go out. So if I say that I want it to go out today at noon, I'll click continue, then I could continue to actually create the rest of my post. And when I'm done, I would click post. It's not going to be visible to everybody that's a part of this channel, etc., until that date and time. So great feature to have. I really like that. Now, of course, we do have that in the chat as well. So if you recall a previous update to chats, so if I go to my middle part of the window and I click on chats, by the way, I have this section called favorites. And I chat all the time with this person called Student One. So I have this person that I chat with a lot in my favorites section. So just so you know, if you have people you chat with quite a bit, you could actually go to their chat, right click, and you get a menu of different features. Like I could move chatting with Haley to my favorites. I also have this section called PM. So if I wanted to move this person's chats to a different section, or there's somebody that I chat with all the time and I want it to be in its own group together, I could say I want this person in the favorites group. Matthew, before I continue, did you have a question?
Yes, someone is wondering what is the difference between a post and an announcement?
Oh, good question. So when you are, and let me show it. If I go back to channels and I'm on the post tab of a channel, so I'm back into a team, into a channel of a team. I'm on the post tab. If I click announcement, maybe we have a new coworker starting. Notice the formatting is different. We get this big header, and then we
Mhm.
have a subheading, and then the menu. Now I'm just going to close that. And if I just go into post, you can see the difference. So announcement gives you the big header. Okay,
Okay, so
so
it's
that's the
not
difference.
it's not sent to a different place, it's just a different
Nope,
formatting then.
different format.
Okay,
All it is
that's
a
it.
different format. Do you want this to stand out differently? So you're announcing something. It's really big.
Great, thank you.
Absolutely. So back into the chats category here, just so you're aware of it, added Haley to my favorites group, because otherwise you can have so many chats going on, and I have a couple of other accounts that I'll have 50, 60 chats going on at one time. It's really hard to find somebody. So if you have people that you're working with regularly, add them to favorites. By the way, right clicking has become more than your best friend these days. Right clicking on anything these days gives you more choices than it ever did. We didn't always have the right click in some of these areas. Now we have right click menus everywhere. Now, of course, you'll still see a dot, dot, dot menu when you hesitate that you could go to the same thing, but a lot of times we just do a right click. But otherwise, when it comes to chatting, let me go into a chat again. So I'll go back to the student one. When it actually comes to chatting, there's a few new things to be aware of. So one of the things is if you go to the top right, you go to the top right, because I always say, always look all the way across to the top right. So I'm in a chat right now, and there's a new icon called AI Notes. So if I click on AI Notes, it's automatically going to scan through my chat history with this person, and it's basically going to give me notes related. It's a summary. It's basically like a summary of what's been going on in my chats. So you can see I've got a report review, I've got this project collaboration, we were talking about this ABC project, etc. So it gave me this nice little summary. Now I'm just going to go ahead and close that because I do also have Copilot. So I can go straight to the top right and click Copilot as well. Copilot is everywhere. I won't get into all the details about Copilot because we don't have enough time today to go through all of that, but look for our sessions that we have coming up for Copilot. But the one thing that I do want to mention that is brand new, as a matter of fact, I don't even know if it's released to everybody just yet, but it's called a storyline. So if you're a social media user, you're familiar with storylines. If I go to the top right and I click on the plus sign for this add a person, doesn't always mean I want to add a person to this conversation, this chat, because I could, like if I'm chatting with student one and I want to add Matthew to this chat, I could go to the top right and click add people. But add people is not just adding people anymore. um, if you have the latest and greatest updates, you're going to see additional tools that we have available. One of them is going to be under this agents and bots. I have a category here for it called workflow. A big part of the updates to working in Copilot, working in Microsoft 365, all of it now is related to working with agents and bots. Agents, we did a session a little bit on, what's changed in Microsoft 365. We did that back in January, I think my memory is taking me to January. But there's a lot going on right now with needing to have automated workflows. We want automation with AI. So if we have Copilot, we can be utilizing these different agents and bots where an agent, and I have this described in your handout, so if you don't remember what I say after the fact, that's okay, you can read your handout. But basically, I'm going to click on workflows here just so you can see where it takes me. But we have these agents, which is an app add-in that we can use to enhance our capabilities depending on the area we're working in. So if I'm in the Copilot chat, I'm just in Copilot chat, I can have an agent to help me with my chatting prompts. Here, if I'm chatting with somebody, I can use an agent to help me with a workflow. So I'm going to go down to the bottom. I haven't added any yet to my chat. So at the bottom, I'm going to go to add agents and bots because we can add in, and this is going to continue to change. It's going to be enhanced. We'll get more and more features for this, but there are some agents under this category for agents. These are some of the Microsoft recommended options. If I come down, these are the ones that are popular in Microsoft Teams. So we could use polling in a chat. We could use reminders. And these are like built-in workflows. So things to help us automate our processes. Not that Copilot can't be used to do this. These are just additional tools that we have along with Copilot that we can be using. These are AI driven, by the way. Most of these are going to be AI driven. So some of these require specific licensing to use as well. But here's some productivity agents we can use, educational agents. Down at the bottom right, I could go in and get more apps. Apps are the agents we're referring to. And by the way, a bot is part of an agent. It's kind of like a module of an agent. To put it simply for today, we'll be doing more and more of that when we get into working more directly on the Copilot sessions. Okay, we'll get into a lot more on this. Right now, there's just so many different other things going on in Microsoft Teams that we need to talk about today that I can't do all of the Copilot type things, but just so you know, it is Copilot related. I'm going to just close that. So apps and agents are a brand new, well, it started coming out in the fall for testing, now becoming a regular part of using Copilot. And we are going to be having agents and bots available in all of our apps, not just here in Microsoft Teams. They're in SharePoint and stuff too. Okay, so we'll leave that for right now. That we'll leave that as our end of discussion for the day. But there are so many different things that are being enhanced as well. You could go into an area and all of a sudden you're going to say, oh, I didn't know that feature was in here, because they are adding new capabilities depending on where it is that you're working, okay, and what it is that you're doing. But when I'm in a chat, I had mentioned the word storyline, which is in your handout. I do have some information under the category page 5, I think it is, under chatting in Teams. You'll notice I have two different tabs at the top of a chat. So I'm in a regular chat. I'm chatting with a group of people or just a coworker, whatever. Shared is your old file tab. So instead of it saying files at the top, it now says shared. So it's combining files that were shared during the chat. It's combining links that were shared in a chat. Everything that has been shared in that chat is combined together in the shared category. If I just want to see files that were shared, I can click files. If I just want to see links, I can click links. Otherwise, there's a recent category as well. So Microsoft combined things together to make it easier on us. So thank you, Microsoft, because they're thinking about the end users and wanting things to be more convenient. Now we also, you may not see Storyline today because it is very, very new, but Storyline is like your other social media tools that we use. I'm not really configured for Storyline yet. But it's going to show you just a little bit. You can see I have nothing in the storyline yet because I'm just on student one, and student one doesn't have a lot of activities with me right now, but it's using Viva, which is another Microsoft 365 app in the background, where you can see on page 5, it's going to give you, and going to page 6, it gives you some details on storyline, but it's going to give you updates to posts with a specific person that you're on their chat, engagements you've done with them. It's also going to be integrated to other apps like Outlook, Teams, Viva Connections, things like that. It will have some customization features that we're going to be able to do. So it's really a summarization of what's going on with that specific user. So it's a quick, easy way that we can take advantage of Viva options, which Viva is a huge app on its own that has all these other components to it that really takes a look at what's going on with your communication, your collaboration with that user. So anyway, you'll hear more about it and start to see it over the next few weeks, the next month or so. Okay, but we're going to run out of time so quickly. So let me get to talking about Microsoft Teams calendar. So if you have slid the icon over for the new Teams calendar, so up at the top right, if you go to the calendar, by the way, if you go to the Teams calendar, there is a new Teams calendar that you definitely want to slide the icon over. So at the top right, you can see my button is slid over for new calendar. I could slide it back and go back to the old calendar, but I never will. I never want to go back to the old calendar in Teams. So if you recall how the old calendar worked, you could go to wherever you want to create a new meeting or whatever and click on the time, and it gave you a new meeting, but the window looked very different than it does today. With this new calendar, we are directly integrated with Outlook calendar. There is no difference between the Outlook calendar and your Teams calendar now. They work the same, and they are more connected than they've ever been before. So before I even create an appointment or anything, let me just get rid of that. At the top, just so you can see, you have different views. We can even create custom views like filter whatever you want, and then you could even save your current view. So we can even have custom views now in Teams. But anyway, you have a work view, a work week view. So if you have your calendar set up with your days that you work, all of that is available now, just like if you were in your Outlook calendar. So click on the drop down where it says views. Otherwise, you can go to filters and you could choose what do you want to filter by: reoccurrences, show as, in-person meetings, etc. And once you apply some filters and do some other things, you can save those as views that you can access from that drop down menu and toggle back and forth in between these different views. But how do I know this is just like Outlook? Look at your left-hand side for one. We didn't have this on the left-hand side in the Teams calendar before. We always did in Outlook, but now we have it in Teams. And you can see all of your calendars. So down in the bottom of the left-hand side, first off, I can navigate to different dates up at the top, just like we do in Outlook, but I could go to show all. Show all is going to show all of my calendars, just like I see in Outlook. How cool is that? So if I wanted to go to a group calendar, I want to go to a coworker's calendar, other people's calendars, we can do that. But what you're going to find is we don't have a file menu. Back in the old version of Outlook, we used to have a file menu and stuff. Now we have other ways to access that. Right-clicking is going to become your best friend because right-click can take you into sharing and permissions, just like we do in Outlook. We can have different colors for our calendars. We can even have different charms for our calendars. We can move our calendars up and down within the hierarchy on this left-hand side as well. But enough about that. I want to spend the last couple of minutes that we have together today to talk about when you create a new appointment. Well, technically, they're all called events. In the new Outlook and in Teams, everything is now one thing. Instead of having an appointment, a meeting, an event, everything now is called an event. There was no reason to have three different things. So if I come to my calendar and I say that I want to have a new meeting this afternoon, and I want it to be just a regular meeting, I don't have to go to Outlook to do it. I can do it right here in Teams. It doesn't have to be a Teams meeting anymore. If I go and click on the date and the time, it's going to open this window. I would put in what the meeting is going to be about. Oops, I can't type today. Meeting of the minds. I could invite people if I wanted to. It could be a face-to-face meeting or it can be an online Teams meeting. I could change the date, change the time. I could choose a location. I could add a description. But notice there's an arrow at the top that I could expand the window, or I could simply go to the bottom right and I could click more options. If you choose more options, you get the full window where we could actually slide the button over and say we want this to be a Teams meeting. And I could add in who, of course, I want to invite to it. I could put in optional people. I could say that this is an all-day meeting or make it a reoccurring meeting. I could select a room. I could also say this is going to be an in-person event. I want this to be a face-to-face in-person event. That's part of the new Outlook calendar as well, the new Outlook version. I could type in, of course, anything that I want to put in as the description. I could press my slash key. So if I put in this meeting is about, and I could say slash, and I get a menu. I want to insert a file. I want to insert an email, whatever the case is. I have my slash menu that I could be using. So maybe I want to insert this file. I don't have to go to my attachment down at the bottom. I could do it from there. And because this is a Teams meeting, down at the bottom, I have add an agenda. If you are doing a Teams meeting and you haven't done add an agenda at the bottom yet, highly recommend you start using it, because then you have your agenda and everything in one central location. So I'm going to do topic 1. I'm going to say we're going to talk about topic 2. I would start putting in my agenda. And when I start that meeting, by the way, the meeting notes pane automatically will open because you added this when you created the meeting, just so you know. But then, of course, you can do your meeting notes in there. You could do follow-up tasks during the meeting or after the meeting. You can put in tasks and assign them to specific people that attended the meeting. There's a lot more to this, but we won't worry so much about all that today. Now, you'll still do the same thing. You'll click Save. It will automatically, if it were a Teams meeting and you invited people, it will automatically send it. Otherwise, if it weren't a Teams meeting and you didn't invite anybody, it's going to add it anyway. And of course, it added it to your Outlook calendar. So let me go to Outlook. So here's Outlook. On the left-hand side, I'm going to go to, come on, I'm going to go to my calendar. And if I want to, and I'm going to turn off my second calendar here, but here's that meeting that I created. So if I want to go back into that meeting that I just created in Teams, I can go to that meeting, click once, and just like in Teams, it's going to give me exactly the same thing. If I want to edit, I can, or I want to delete it, I can. If I want to chat with the people, I want to join the meeting because it's a Teams meeting, I can do all of that. But let me show you that if I go and create a new meeting, so let's say that I want a meeting right before this one. I can click just like I did in Teams. It's going to give me exactly the same window. They're not different. Well, they're 95% the same. If I expand the window out or click more options, just like I did a second ago in Teams, I'm going to get the same menu, the same choices. The only thing that I am not going to get is down at the bottom, I'm not getting the agenda. Now, could I open it in Teams and get the agenda? Yes, I could. But otherwise, I'm getting the exact same look. And what I didn't mention when I was in Teams and I did this exact same thing was I can switch to a different person's calendar or a different group calendar at the top. And on the right-hand side, we're automatically seeing and I'm going to see the availability of whoever I invite. It shows me find a time. I can see whoever I invite, I can see their availability. And on the right-hand side, I'm seeing my calendar. So if I say, oh, I don't want it there, I really want it down here, I can just be clicking and dragging it to a different time frame. Works exactly the same in Teams calendar and in Outlook. The only difference, so I said 95% the same, the only difference is at the bottom. I can put in a description, but I'm not getting the agenda because I'm not in Microsoft Teams creating it. So I'm just going to click send. I'm going to do my normal. I'm going to click send. By the way, I didn't put a title to this. I better put a title to this. I'll say department meeting. Now I'll click send because you wouldn't want to send it without having an actual title to it. But let me go back to Microsoft Teams. So back in Microsoft Teams, of course, I'm going to have access to that same meeting. So let me double click on it because double clicking on it in Outlook or Teams takes you directly into editing that meeting. Because I'm in Microsoft Teams now, you can see that I had chose that this was going to be a Teams meeting, so I've got my meeting connection information, but now I can also add an agenda. Because I'm in Teams, I didn't have that when I was in Outlook, but I can do it here. And notice that it's giving me meeting insights. So it's giving me other things that are related to the person that I actually invited to this meeting. So because I'm using parts of Viva, it automatically is connecting this meeting insights as well. Lots of cool things when it comes to working with meetings. You can see I've got the same menu at the top as I did when I was back in Outlook. I also still have my scheduling assistant, but as you've already seen, I don't need it. I don't need my scheduling assistant anymore. It shows up automatically when you invite other people. So I'm just going to really close that. I'm not going to keep that open anymore. But if you have not taken that step to slide that button over to use that new calendar, have that be something you do today. You will not regret it. You will absolutely love it because who wants to be looking at two different calendars? Last thing I want to show you in there though, but because what if I'm in Microsoft Teams and I want to create a meeting that is related to a channel? We don't do it the way that we used to because we don't have that same window. If you want a channel meeting, you're going to go to the top right where it says new event, but click the down arrow. Don't click the icon, click the down arrow. That is where you will find event, channel meeting, you will find your webinar, your town hall, etc. But if you click channel meeting, so if I click channel meeting, it automatically opens up a new meeting window, but it will be related to working with a channel. So that's the only way to create it to be connected to a channel. The old menu that we have is not there. So what you're going to have in addition to the other features is add a channel. So if I want to add this, and this is a great feature. So let me say it's going to be related to the accounting department team. I want it to be related to the channel called accounts payable. The best part about this is on the right-hand side, send personal invites. So everybody that is a member of that channel will be invited automatically. I don't have to go to the top and individually invite them. I just slide a button over and say, invite everybody that's a part of that channel. I love this. This is something that I use regularly. I'm always doing meetings that are related to a channel. I think that this is a smart move on Microsoft's part. It's a smart move to have this updated calendar so that Outlook is the same, Teams is the same. With that change, of course, of the agenda isn't available for a Teams meeting in Outlook, but if you open it in Teams, you can add it. Not a big deal. So slide that button over. I'm not really going to send that. By the way, I did have my meeting options on the right-hand side. Anytime you're doing a Teams meeting, you can always be setting up those options. Okay, but we're out of time already today. There is some additional features and of course some more detail on things that I had mentioned. I didn't go kind of page by page with you in your handout, but that's something you can go back and look at when we're done. Look at the section for the teams and for the teams, agents, and bots to get more information. You may not see all of that right away because may not have been released by your MSP or your, of course, Smart Dolphins or your IT department, but those kind of things will be coming, and they're going to be a big part of automation with your applications, your 365 apps. Okay, so Matthew, I'm going to bring it back to you.